Okay. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November, I can't believe it, second meeting of the San Luis Coastal Unified School District Board of Trustees. At this time, we'd like those in attendance to please keep your videos off and audio muted unless you're presenting information or speaking in public comment. We're offering translation services for our Spanish-speaking attendees. To access translation, please click on the globe at the bottom of your screen and then the language. At this time, we'd like to ask if anyone who needs translation would please click on the participants icon at the bottom of your screen and raise your hand. Hold on.
Rocio, would you mind translating that, please?
Okay, we'll hang on just, I'm sorry, we'll hang on just a minute more. Our translator apparently is having some problems with her audio, and I want to make sure that we have that cleared up before we begin the meeting.
Mandy, could you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes. Would you mind translating that we're offering Spanish translation for our Spanish-speaking members?
Yeah, we are offering estamos ofreciendo interpretación del inglés al español. Por favor, estamos aquí a su servicio. Háganos saber si ustedes necesitan nuestro apoyo. Gracias.
Okay, very good. The board did meet in closed session. We had two items. One, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to potential litigation. And the second, personnel review and possible action on employment dismissal or discipline of district employees. Do we have a consensus on the order of business? Okay, let's move on then to item number 6.01, student representatives to the board. Do we have Nick or Noah here tonight? There we go. We got both of them. Let's see. Nick, why don't you begin and then we'll go over to Noah.
Awesome. Thank you. So last week was super good at Morro Bay High. We organized with the counselors a Be Kind week, and it was focused on anti-bullying. We did a lot for that. So one of the main events that we did was a friendship lunch, and we had a big long table where everyone could come and sit and eat together. And then our Halloween costume contest on Friday was a hit. It was really awesome because the fences came down around our new quad. So we got to utilize that area for the costume contest. We had the red carpet out, we had a whole setup, and we had a few teacher judges. So that was a good hit. There were a lot of students there. And then I believe tonight there is a girls volleyball CIF game. And we're hoping that volleyball gets to move on to whatever their next round might be. And then on Sunday, there was a surf team contest, and that turned out super well. And I believe all the sports are doing really well. I think football has a CIF game next week, and our color throw at the last home football game last week was super good hit. Next time, maybe I'll have to show you guys a video because it was really,
Great.
really cool. And I think we're going to do something similar in the future because it was a really awesome event and a lot of people loved it. And then as far as FFA news, there's going to be a barbecue. Oh, wait, no, this already happened. I'm sorry. And I think that's pretty much all that we have going on. Yeah, me personally, I'm very busy. I turned in college apps, so I don't know. That's a little bit of me news, but yeah, otherwise in our school, it's just been very good. I'm super excited for Thankful Week in a couple weeks. November is always super quick, but super busy as far as ASB stuff. And yeah, we're just super excited for the holidays and finishing up the semester.
Great. Questions, Catherine?
Just wanted to mention the play that it was still is going on and was a fantastic show that I saw the other night, Clue. So it's good for everybody, especially those of us who are of the generation from the game, Clue. So I'd highly recommend that as an activity for students and their parents.
Yeah, our theater club is super good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, Nick, I've got to ask, so what's your number one college choice?
Like my reach school,
Yeah,
MIT.
really? Congratulations. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Thank
Well,
you. Yeah.
we'll keep our fingers crossed for you.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you so much.
Noah, Noah, you want to tell us what's going on at San Luis High?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'll share my screen really quick. It says I cannot share my screen at the moment, but
Hold on just a second. Mandy, is it okay if he does that? We're going to let you share your screen and you can share your screen right now.
perfect. All right, thank you. Yeah, we have a couple of similar things going on at Slow High right now. Hit share real quick. Yeah, as she was saying, we just opened Clue last Friday and Saturday, and it's going super well. We have shows this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday if you guys are interested in coming out. And it's super cool. It's our first show in our new theater in the new admin building, and it's going super well. My sister's in it, and she says it's really good, and everything I've heard is great reviews. So make sure to go out and watch that, which is super cool. We also had a Halloween Spirit Day and costume contest last Friday. It went super well. We had, I'd say, at least half or 3/4 of the school dressed up in Halloween costumes, which is super cool and kind of rare to see. Everyone dressing up and showing out, which is pretty fun. As far as athletics go, our football team had a huge game against Mission last Friday that we unfortunately did not win, but it was super great to see how many people came out because it was at Mission, but I'd say there was maybe 1,000 people, 1,500 people out there, which is kind of nuts. And we had a large portion of our student body go out there, and it was a good fun game. Our volleyball team just had a CIF match. They unfortunately lost at Clovis, and our girls tennis team just advanced in CIF today against Bakerfield Christian at home, which is pretty cool. And we also had a breast cancer awareness game, volleyball game and day last Wednesday, where a large portion of the student body dressed out in pink, and then we had a big pink out section at the volleyball game. And in other news, we have Student of the Month Bbq this Thursday. Each teacher gets to select a student from one of their classes to get a free cheeseburger, hamburger, or I believe vegan burger or some sort of vegan option, which is super fun. All the staff get burgers. And we have a student congress meeting tomorrow with student representatives from all the third period classes. And as Nick was saying, November goes by super fast. We hardly have any school. We have no school this Friday for a teacher work day, and then 2 days off next week, and then Thanksgiving break shortly after that. So that's about all that's going on at Slow High right now, but it's going pretty well. Clue is definitely a big hit.
So Noah, I have to ask, have you started doing your college applications yet?
I have. I just submitted Stanford the other day, the early action.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
So as always, you're both welcome to join in with it, stay with the meeting. If there's anything that you want to add, you're both welcome to stay and add whatever comments you want to. But of course, we understand that you may have homework and other things you're responsible for, understanding that this is November. And as you've said, you're probably pretty busy right now. So thank you guys. We really appreciate it. And
Yeah, thank you very much.
we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Okay. Let's move on to 6.02 Senzheimer Elementary Program Highlights. Dr. Prater, or I see Mr. Mayfield.
Yes, good evening.
Sorry,
We
it
have,
says Dr.
that's okay.
Prater here. You've You've shrunk a little bit there.
I'll take it as a compliment.
I know I have too in comparison to him. What can I say?
I love board highlights, and tonight we have Senzheimer Elementary and our new wonderful principal, Jessica Miller, to give us a little highlight of what's happening at Senzheimer. Mrs. Miller, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Mayfield and board. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I've got a little slideshow to present, so I will get that going. But I am super excited to talk about all the awesome things we're doing at Senzheimer right now. To start off, one of our biggest pushes this year has really been to build that Stinger community back up. Being gone out of school for a year and a half was a long time, and we wanted to make sure that all of our students came back and felt like they were part of our community, that they were part of our school, and that they had a safe and caring place to go every single day. So we instituted some new Stinger expectations this year. Take care of yourself, take care of others, take care of this place. And these are things that we use all over campus, out on the playground, out at lunchtime, in classrooms. Teachers spend a lot of time at the beginning of the year going through these expectations and reviewing what they look like and sound like for our students in all of our different places on campus. So that's been a really positive for us. We also have been trying to build up those community events. And so we had a big chalk art festival at the beginning of October, which was so much fun. Our kids spent about half an hour on a Friday drawing their chalk art pictures here. And so some examples are on the screen. And then we invited all of our families that night to come out and check out all the chalk art. And we had a food truck, and we just had a great turnout from families and community members who were super excited just to get together on campus once again, because it's been so long. So that was a great turnout and a great event for our whole community. Stinger Spirit Days are also something that are happening on campus right now. Every single Friday, we have Stinger Spirit, and students dress up in their Stinger gear. And so these are some of our pictures from our most recent Spirit Day. We had a Super Spirit Day in honor of Halloween last week. So kids wore things like bee wings and bee little antennas and all of that on campus. So that was very, very fun. We also had a walk to school day event that was a great community builder. Lots of our kids came out. Student council, ran the event and really pumped it up for our community. And we had, welcoming students on campus that morning with some special treats. So that was awesome. We also have some clubs and activities that have started on campus. So we have some lunch clubs that are starting. We have student council happening on a regular basis. And then we have an art club that's going to get started in the next few weeks here. That'll be a lunch club. We also have a skateboard club that's going to get started in a few weeks. We got some really cool skateboard decks donated a few years ago. And so we have some students who are really interested in skateboarding. And so we've decided to write to some local skate shops and get some wheels and different things donated that you need to put together a skateboard deck. So that's happening. We've got an anime club happening on campus once a week as well. And then we also have an alternate activity cart that comes out at lunch every single day. And as you can see, it is a hit. We have a lot of kids who are choosing not to play the whole time or not to play at all and would rather come do some drawing or writing or play some board games with their friends out at lunchtime too. Another big piece of our Stinger community this year is our mindfulness practice. So we were super excited to welcome on Dee DeJoya this year, and she started off the year with us here at Senzheimer with 8 classes for every single one of our classes all around mindfulness. And with each of these lessons around mindfulness that she taught our students, she also had a parent portal and a teacher portal that she updated on a regular basis and had tips for parents, tips for teachers, so students can continue to use those mindfulness practices that they've been taught. And it's been amazing to see our students are still using these on a regular basis. So that's been incredibly awesome. On top of all of our Stinger community that we're building this year, we are also really focusing on academics. Coming back from virtual learning, we are incredibly excited to be back in the classroom. Like all of our elementary schools right now, we've got win time going, what I need time. And so this is a time specifically for students to focus on what they need academically. As you can see, these are some examples of our pull-out groups. We also have some push-in activities going on in classrooms where students can really focus on, if they need that small group focus in reading or small group focus in math, they can use this what I need time in their classroom to really hone in on those skills. We also have really been pushing outdoor learning. And so we've been getting out into our garden as much as possible, really building that back up. And then we had a yoga mat drive at the beginning of the year to get yoga mats donated to our school. And so all of our classrooms have yoga mats available to them, and they're able to use their back patios here to do some outdoor learning. And that has been super popular, especially during that what I need time, that wind time. Kids can grab their yoga mat, they can go lay out outside, they can do their work, in the fresh air, take a mask break. So that's been great. A few more examples here of our outdoor learning and some flexible seating options for our students. At Senzheimer, we are also incredibly lucky because we have 8 LED classrooms. So LED stands for our Learning Experience Designer teachers. And these are teachers who are piloting a lot of our innovation lessons that our district is putting out this year. And so I think, if I'm not mistaken, Senzheimer has the most LED teachers out of any other campus, and all of our teachers are really just jumping in, trying to get all of these LED lessons in the hands of our kids and make sure that they have time in the innovation lab and they have time to really create and explore in their classrooms as well. We are just super excited to be back on campus. Some more examples of our kiddos learning, hands-on learning, really interacting with their classmates, which everyone is just so happy that we can do now. And that is it. That is our update from Senzheimer. Thanks for letting me share.
Questions from the board? Well, thanks, Jessica. Could you tell me again about the LED class and what that stands for, and just a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it stands for Learning Experience Design Teacher, our classroom. LED teachers are our teachers in charge here. And so they are teachers who have kind of taken on the role of being pilot teachers for specific innovation lessons that Jeff Martin and his team are working to create up at the district office right now. And so our teachers are taking those per grade level and really working them out in their classrooms and figuring out, what works, what doesn't work, what do we want to add in preparation to roll that out district-wide in the next few years. Great.
So this is in relationship to the collaboration that we have with the foundation regarding our innovation labs?
Yep, exactly.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Well, it sounds like you guys are just doing some really exciting stuff. I really, I love to hear about the outdoor education and being able to get outside and all the things you're doing there. I think it sounds really super. And so thank you, Jessica. We really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
All right. Let's go on to 6.03, Annual Report of the Personnel Commission. Mr. Block.
Yes, good evening. We're here to present the 2021 annual report. I'm going to ask Julie Jones to come on up. She's going to share some highlights. Just as a note for the board, Mrs. Jones has been a member for the last 6 years, our chairperson this year, but she is stepping down. So we want to thank her for her service. She's been outstanding, and she's going to share the report with you tonight.
Probably need to show me how to share this. Huh? Well, it's certainly my pleasure to be here tonight. This is sort of my swan song for the last time of my responsibility on the Personnel Commission. It has been a wonderful experience. I am so in awe of our school district, and I am so committed to this district. I have been asked to do some work on a couple of boards in the community, and I thought I would work on those and some nonprofits and give someone else a chance. But I'll be here for quite a while. The first of my 12 grandchildren that live in the district graduated this year. So you have 11 more Joneses to come. So good luck. But each year we're asked to give a report from the Personnel Commission, and I'll just review a couple of things, and I won't go over, I don't know if this can move this up as we go, but the merit system
that we adhere to in the Personnel Commission. Is that it? Okay. Okay. And you can read, so I won't read everything, but I do want to read this opening paragraph. The merit system is a system of rules and procedures similar to civil service, which governs classified school personnel. Its fundamental purpose is to ensure that employees are selected, promoted, and retained on the basis of merit and fitness without favoritism or prejudice. So the next paragraph there, they have 17 things listed as that are the functions of the Personnel Commission. I have to say, looking at all those, that most of the work is done by the human resource staff, which is an amazing group of people. And they are wonderful to work, and they have really had a challenge this year and have worked so hard. Our commission consists of myself, who is appointed by the board, Jennifer Myers, who is appointed by CSEA, and then Rebecca French, who is appointed by the other two commissioners. As you can see, these have a long list of goals that we have had for this 2021. And we, of course, has been a challenge as everyone has had this year, but I think we've been able to accomplish most of these goals, and have been able to establish relationships and respect for those that we work with, especially our classified personnel, and support the human resource staff. Just to go over some of our activities this year. Last year, Rebecca French and I presented the report that is, by the way, mandated by our rules to give every year to the board. Commissioner Gail Sears retired this year after many years of service on the Personnel Commission. The commission approved new classifications for student advocate on the CSEA salary schedule, and nutrition coordinator and the classified management salary schedule. We've been using Helios this year. I should say that staff has been using Helios this year, an online onboarding employee record system, which I'm told has been really great to have and to work with. We continue to review the commission rules and update the language related to any changes. Staff began implementing the use of electronic forms through Google Suites for interviews. And this also has really been something that has helped our staff, because they have, as you will see, such an increase of interviews this year. In November 2020, the commissioners conducted an appeals hearing regarding a disciplinary action for a classified employee. In May, we adopted our budget for 2021-22, totaling $248,728. And then this paragraph, I kind of want to just repeat. It says the district did not lay off any classified employees during the COVID shutdown. Personnel Commission staff worked with site principals and department heads to ensure that all classified employees had work to do during the shutdown to support continued operation of the district and to administer Families First Coronavirus Response Act leaves where applicable. So I think that was a wonderful accomplishment of our district. In March, Mrs. French represented the commission on the panel to select our new director, Mr. Dan Block, and we had really enjoyed having him. We didn't do our evaluation this year because our previous director retired. Sorry, I'm not keeping up here. I just wanted to point out, just as you look at the numbers here for recruitments this year, I just want you to note completed applications received, just compare 2019, 2020 to 2020-21 from 418 to 532. And every single one of those applications means action, work from our HR staff. And they have, as I keep saying, they have been amazing this year. I just want to give my special thanks to Mr. Block for his support, for our staff, and to the board for all the support that we've had over the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Don't go away, Julie. Are there any questions from board members? Well,
Yeah,
Mrs. Shepherd.
I just wanted to say, Julie, our paths have crossed several times over the years, and I really appreciate the great service you have provided to our students and now to the HR department and the work you've done. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I look forward to our paths continuing to cross in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I would agree, and just acknowledging your service on the Personnel Commission. Thank you for that. Thank you for all your years that you worked for the district. Your service to the students of this district was really to be commended. And then finally, of course, I don't know how many people know it, but the efforts that you and I think your husband and other members of your community have put together to bring nonprofits who serve kids together to meet each other, to figure out better ways of serving kids in the community. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
as well.
And actually, that's my next big assignment is on the board of Community Counseling Center, which you I don't know if you've already had reports, but your reports on how we're going to be bringing therapy directly to the kids in the school. So that's my next big project.
Thank you. And we look forward to having your grandkids in the district. So, thank you. Thank you very much. Yay. All right. 7.01 correspondence. The board did not receive correspondence, so we'll move on to 7.02, which is public comment. Let me read a statement about that, and then we'll move on, and then we'll get into the public comment. At this point in the agenda, the board welcomes comments on matters of district interest. The board will listen but cannot engage in discussion or take action on items not listed on the agenda. Generally, this section of the agenda is for individuals or representative of a group to address the board on issues not listed on the agenda. Speakers who wish to discuss items on the agenda are requested to wait until that item comes before the board. However, comments may be given on agenda items at this time if it's not possible for a speaker to stay until the agenda items heard by the board. If you submit written comments on a topic, you will not be allowed to also speak on that topic. Comments or correspondence submitted anonymously will not be accepted. If you'd like to speak in person, please complete a yellow public comment request form and give it to Mrs. Dawson, who's right over there. In-person public comments will be heard first. If you wish to speak via Zoom, click on participants icon at the bottom of your screen and raise your hand. When your name's called, you may restart your video if you wish and unmute your audio. If you need assistance with your video, please let us know and we'll attempt to fix it. If you have a problem with your audio, please click on the thumbs down icon and we'll attempt to help you as well. Written public comments submitted prior to the board meeting will be read by Dr. Eisendrath Rogers following verbal public comment. All public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. A limit of approximately 450 words is written comments. You may not cede any remaining time to another speaker. Any portion of your comment extending past the 450 word limit may not be read aloud due to time restrictions. All written comments that are not read into the record will be made part of the meeting minutes, provided that such comments are received prior to the end of the meeting. Please be aware that written public comments, including your name, may become public information. Again, no ceding of time. Mrs. Dawson, do we have anyone who wishes to address, who's submitted a yellow form? Is there anybody who would like to address the board at this time? Please come on up and state your name and we'll give you your 3 minutes. Okay, seeing no one, I'll close public comment. I think we did have someone, let me just look here. I'm sorry, yes. We do via Zoom. Yeah, I'm going to that right now. Okay, so I think we have Mr. Elguera, is that correct? Mr. Elguera, if you're there.
Yes, that's correct.
Great, Mr. Elguera, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, your 3 minutes is beginning now, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Edward Elguera, and I have a daughter at C.L. Smith Elementary. Last week, she was exposed to COVID-19 at school, but we weren't concerned because, after all, in SLO County, there have been 0 deaths under the age of 18 and only 1 death under the age of 30. And nationwide, the age of 30 account for less than 1% of COVID deaths. But I digress. I'm not here to speak about the ridiculousness of how it is being handled. And I'm speaking tonight because when I registered my 10-year-old child for an antigen test last weekend, on the school district website, they asked for the sex of my child, which is normal. Non-binary was one of the options. And I found this odd considering the fact that one study published by Oxford University showed that only 0.1% of babies are born intersex. Okay, that's fine. You know, people are born with, and after being, it didn't really affect us. Then the registration form asked for my daughter's gender ID. And this because health professionals in states used to classify disorders, classifies gender dysphoria illness. So what I'm asking is, can someone please, and this is rhetorical, of course, can help me understand how this one particular mental is related to 19 and why the school district is asking for my 10-year-old's mental health history in order to test for COVID. You didn't ask if she's schizophrenic, if she's bipolar, if she has depression, all of which in gender dysphoria by magnitudes. Then it works. Next, antigen test form for sexual orientation. And as a parent who has personally felt the detrimental and damaging effects of our hypersexualized culture, I ask, why is this inappropriate obsession with sexuality being brought into our schools? The sexual education of my child is not the role of the government, nor should it be the role of public education. This is the responsibility of parents, and the school district should not be entertaining these insane ideologies or caving to the whims of perverted radical activists who are attempting to indoctrinate our innocent children. The school district should not encourage our children to pursue and take on these paraphilic disorders such as gender dysphoria. This is disgusting, and you should take time to introspect. So just to close, as my time is coming close, I'm not here to bash anyone who's dealing with mental illness. I feel immense compassion for anyone dealing with any sort of emotional pain. But can someone please explain why this is being pushed on our children? And can you explain why you are pandering to this loud minority of activists? So lastly,
Okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. Your time is up. We really appreciate your comments. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board, Mrs. Dawson? And we do have one written comment. Okay, Dr. Eisenrath Rogers, do you have that?
This is from Jesse Elliott.
Hold-
Hello.
hold-
You ready, Chris?
Yes,
for me?
please
Okay.
go ahead.
This is from Jesse Elliott. Hello, my name is Jesse Elliott. I live in San Luis Obispo. I have 2 boys at Pacheco. I am writing to express my opinions regarding masking and vaccination. I will start by saying that I am vaccinated. I have been ever since I became eligible. I support any adult 18 years and older to make the choice for themselves to get vaccinated or not. However, I do not support vaccine mandates for adults, and definitely not if they have already had COVID. This is the privilege of being an adult, is that we get to make medical decisions for ourselves. No entity has the right to make medical decisions for us unless we have given consent or love in a country where we do not have freedoms granted to us like our US Constitution. Now, regarding children 17 and younger, children are the responsibility of their parent or legal guardian. This includes all physical, emotional, mental, financial, spiritual, and medical responsibility. Yes, there are vaccine mandates for children entering the public school system, and my children are obviously vaccinated to that established standard in which I have no problem complying with. But these new COVID-19 vaccines are too new to be a proven standard. Many 12 to 17-year-olds have gotten the vaccine. However, there is story after story of ill side effects, worse than if the 12 to 17-year-old had got COVID and rode out the asymptomatic cold flu-like symptoms in which plus 99.99% would get and not be hospitalized or die. COVID is not a young person's disease. It is an adult, old person disease in which every adult has the choice to make whether they want to risk getting COVID or not without the vaccine. The argument about protecting the children's parents and grandparents is absurd now because the adult has the choice to be vaccinated for additional protection. And that is the way it should be. But aren't you curious as to why there are thousands of medical staff around the nation quitting because of vaccine mandates? There's obviously something not right here. Now, regarding masking children, please wake up and look around you. Kids are fine. Kids are outside playing without masks, laughing and spitting large particles all over each other on the playground during school and after school. Wearing a mask in a classroom seems ridiculous when they can engage with what they are engaged in outside. Again, if a teacher is concerned, then it is their right to wear a mask, but our children's learning is incomplete because they cannot see the facial gestures and expressions of their teacher's face.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I see that there's Amy O has asked to speak on via Zoom. Amy, are you there?
Yes.
Hi,
Hi.
Amy. Okay, are you
Sorry.
ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So we'll let you go ahead and you can see on the screen, there's 3 minutes and your 3 minutes will begin now.
Great, thank you. I have a student in 7th grade and a kindergartner. I'm in Los Osos, and I've recently pulled my 7th grader to homeschool. He was in the STC setting, and it just wasn't meeting his needs. He was falling behind academically. And now that I've got him home, he's caught up in everything but math, making huge academic strides, but he's still missing that social piece that I can't provide. I know California doesn't have to grant students the privilege of coming on campus and being a part of electives, but I was wondering, and I was under the impression that it was up to our school boards and up to the individual schools themselves as to whether or not to allow homeschoolers to be a part of certain activities. I know sports are a totally different thing, not on our radar anyways. But I was just wondering if it's a definite need in our community. And I suspect with the mandates coming in, it may be even more so as people pull their children to homeschool for other reasons. You know, there's a definite need in our community for people that are homeschooled for whatever to be included and given that social piece. So I just hope that maybe we can look at that and consider our students' well-being. That's all.
Thanks. And Amy, given I think there are confidentiality issues that we're talking about right now. I'm going to ask you to email Dr. Prater.
Oh, I've spoken with him.
Okay, very good. I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure that somebody from the district had been able to contact with you. So
Yes, it's circles and circles. So I'm trying
Okay.
to get somewhere for him. But yeah, thank you.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Dawson, is there anybody else who wishes to address the board? Seeing no one, I'll close public comment. We'll move on to item 8.01, business and budget update. Mr. Pinkerton?
Yeah, just a few things I wanted to share with the board. So number one, and I shared this a little early, but I want to make sure that the board understood. So there's actually a new law in the state of California that we supply menstrual products to students, grades 6 through 12 in our schools. And the law specifically states that it's supposed to be for Title I sites, so schools with over 40% of the students, SEL. But I wanted to share with the board that we're doing it at all of our school sites. So both junior highs, both high schools or continuation school, as well as working with our elementary sites in the city and looking at those bathrooms that predominantly are used by 6th grade students so that those products are available for kids. So I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware. And again, we don't have to do that until next school year, and we're doing it now. So just as a kind of a clarification. I was fortunate enough to watch a big portion of they have a national safety summit. So Safe Schools Network puts on a presentation each year. So this time it was virtual due to COVID, but again, learned a lot from those, just watching it again over I've done it the last few years, right? But really just the emphasis on the importance of staff and student relationships. And when you think drills and earthquakes and all those types of things, but really the key aspect in terms of having a safety culture on our site is really having that connection with kids. So those are things I'll be sharing. Mr. Bonnet and I are going to be going to what's called an ALICE training. So it is a lockdown training. It's coming up next month. So we'll take the information from that, share it with sites, right? Always looking at ways that we can improve safety on our campuses. To that end, we'll be bringing the school safety plans to the board at our next board meeting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Pinkerton. Is there any questions for Mr. Pinkerton? Are there any questions? Okay. 8.02, educational services update. Mrs. Frost.
Yes, thank you. Just one quick reminder, and Noah, our student from San Luis High, reminded us in his speech this evening that we have no students on campus on Friday. So our secondary teachers will all be gathering at San Luis Obispo High School. So that's all 5 schools participating in professional development, mostly put on by our TOSAs, led by Leslie O'Connor, our director. So a lot of really, really impactful sessions, teacher clarity, EL strategies in the classroom, and they're also spending some time on what they call vertical teaming. So picture the science teachers from Laguna meeting with the science teachers from SLO High. Same thing with Los Osos up to Morro Bay High and Pacific Beach joining the conversations. So looking forward to a really, really impactful day. And then of course on our elementary sites, it is a teacher work day. So they do not have professional development. I know they're going to spend their time on report cards, on planning for our parent-teacher conferences. So really, really valuable time for them to work as well.
Okay. Questions from the board for Mrs. Frost? Thanks, Diane. Mr. Pinkerton, back to you for our Measure D update.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to walk a couple of members of our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee around San Luis Obispo High School on Monday. Along with some of our secretarial staff at the district office, our superintendent's office. Just, they're often at meetings or things, they don't get to actually go see the site. So they Val and Jessica got to go with me, see all the construction, and it's just so nice to be at a point now with Measure D where there is a lot of things done and accomplished. So super appreciative, our CBOC members, to do that. On top of that, we, through the work of Ms. Dawson here, all the upgrades on the website, new bond oversight page and Measure D page, right? So Mr. Nakamura took some beautiful photographs that the public can see about, before and after shots that we're putting out there. Did a great slideshow presentation. And then we'll be visiting Morro High to take pictures there on Monday, this coming Monday, to kind of do the same thing. So we'll get those up on the site. Really love to show people, the progress and things that are getting accomplished with Measure D. So it's great to see.
Great. Takes any questions for Mr. Pinkerton on Measure D? Okay, let's go to item 9.01, resolution 606-21-22, confirming appointment of CBOC members. Back to you, Mr. Pinkerton.
Yeah, so we have a Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. And so that group of individuals was selected right when Measure D was passed, and we meet quarterly. So, and basically review all the budget, review the project list, and go out to sites. They get to see the work in hand, review everything. So this is part of the law that when you pass a bond, 55% or more, that you have this committee of elected individuals. So there's, and it's a variety in terms of there's somebody from a tax organization, senior citizens group, PTA, parent, community members. We have 4 people on from the city area, San Luis Obispo city area on the CBOC, and then we have 3 from the coast. So I've tried to keep kind of a balance, just to ensure for the public's sake that we have this balanced group representatives right on our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. So tonight I bring forward a resolution to re-nominate 5 of them. They've all expressed interest to continue in this process and kind of finish out our Measure D project. So all 5 of them have been great throughout the process, and I would love for the board to approve this resolution tonight.
Okay. Are there questions from board members? Okay, I'll go to the public. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the board on this item? Okay, seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board. Mrs. Roger.
Thank you. Absent any comment, I would make the motion to approve resolution 06-2122.
So we have a resolution by Mrs. Roger and a second by Mrs. Frame. On here. Is there any other board discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it up for a vote. Mrs. Roger.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer. Oops, hold on. Mrs. Frame. Mr. Buckman. Ms. Dobler-Drew. Dr. Eisenbrath Rogers.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. The motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Let's go to item 10.01, by area trustee maps, census data update. Dr. Prater.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Unger. We tonight are just updating the board on the latest findings from the census data. So our demographers were able to finalize the census data, which, as you know, came out late. And we have Miss Chelsea Olson Murphy with us tonight, who has been with us all along this journey of about a year, putting together the trustee area maps. And she's going to share with you some of the fine tuning that we're going to need to do over the next 2 meetings. And so Mrs. Olson Murphy, would you like to take it from here?
I would. Thank you, Dr. Prater. I think that I'm not allowed to share my, okay, there we go. My video, I can start now. Perfect. Well, good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all. So this is just a little informational update about what's coming. So as you know, we completed the long process for transitioning from at-large to by trustee area elections earlier this year. This was quite a process that included soliciting extensive community input, holding 5 public hearings prior to finally adopting a by trustee area map. That means in the 2022 election, the district will begin implementing its by trustee area election system, where each trustee is required to reside within the defined trustee area and will be elected only by the voters of that district. As you'll recall, the district utilized the 2010 census data to complete this transition process. As Dr. Prater mentioned, this was because the 2020 census data had been really delayed. And so we have finally received that 2020 census data, and it's in the hands of our demographers right now. And so basically in the redistricting process, which comes as a result of the census data, school districts are required to evaluate whether their current trustee areas have approximately equal population when we use that new census data. So as a general rule of thumb, this variation can't exceed 10%. So if the total variation is less than 10%, no changes are needed. If the total variation is more than 10%, then the boundaries will need to be adjusted. As I mentioned, this process is referred to as redistricting. So we have continued to engage National Demographics Corporation, and they are conducting a study. NDC will present the findings of their study at the board's November 16th board meeting. We anticipate, just from seeing the preliminary results, that there are going to be some minor adjustments to the map that the board has made to ensure this population balancing. So at that November 16th meeting, NDC will present a proposed map that makes these adjustments for the board and the community to consider. So the district wanted to ensure that this process would also be transparent and everyone will have the opportunity to provide their input on the proposed map. So that's why we're talking about it here tonight, so everyone can plan ahead for those meetings. The board will hold at least 2 public hearings to this process and will ensure that any proposed maps are posted on the district's website. So as I already mentioned, the first public hearing will be during that November 16th board meeting. And the second will likely be during the December 14th board meeting, when the board will be asked to adopt a resolution establishing the new trustee area boundaries on that new, slightly tweaked map. So after the adoption of that new trustee area map, the map will be sent over to the county superintendent and the county registrar of voters, who will then adjust the precinct boundaries. And I anticipate they will be very happy that your district completed this process so early, because they are about to be inundated with many of these maps. And then that new map will be used for the first time for the November 2022 election. So that's the update, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Well, first I'd like to go to the public. Is there anyone from the public that wants to address us on this issue? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board. Are there board members? Mrs. Sheffer.
Chelsea, does it seem that every map will need to be tweaked, or is it just 1 or 2, or what does it look like in terms of where adjustments may need to be made?
I think it is just a couple of areas, but don't quote me on that. And I think they're just some pretty minor, adjustments to the map that Daniel will present at the next meeting.
Other questions? Seeing none. Well, this is just a discussion item. Thank you, Chelsea. Dr. Prater, do you have anything to add, or are we good?
No, I think we're good. Chelsea, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And the one caveat that I would have in order to get our demographers to attend our meeting on the 16th and the 14th. So the next 2 board meetings, they have dozens and dozens of school districts that they're working with on the exact same thing across the state. And they requested if we could move our open session to 5 p.m. instead of 6 p.m. in order for them to be able to answer any questions you might have. And I think having that technical expertise to describe even those smaller changes will be important. So that would be my only request moving forward.
Okay, so is everybody good with that? And just so for the public, our next 2 meetings, I believe you said December 16th and
November 16th.
November 16th and December 14th. Open session will commence at 5 p.m. instead of our usual 6 p.m. Right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much, Chelsea. We
Mr.
really
Unger.
appreciate it. Yes, Mrs.
Thank you all.
Sorry, Mrs. Roger.
Thank you.
Hold on, Chelsea. I think Mrs. Roger has a question.
I have no objection to changing the time of our meeting. I think the demographers have asked us to do that in the past as well. But I have felt that the demographers were not well oriented to our district or our situation and didn't come particularly well prepared. So I would ask that you assure us that they will at the next meeting.
Yes, and Dr. Prater and I have some meetings scheduled with them, so we will make sure that that happens.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mrs. Roger. Okay, thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you at the next meeting. All right,
Bye.
10.02, Principal Leadership and Development. And I believe that would be Mr. Martin.
Yes, good evening. Thanks for having me as part of your agenda tonight.
Hey, Jeff.
So one of the areas that I'm working on as principal on special assignment, just to recap, is one being I Innovate. And I was here in October and shared with you an update on that area of my work. Second being redeveloping summer school and what the summer learning program looks like and the summer experience. And the other one being principal development and support. So my goal tonight is to take you through the principal development support parts of my role, as well as the summer experience, to give you a better idea of the progress we've been making. So with that in mind, I'm going to share my screen. Maybe.
We'll get to there, Jeff. Yeah.
Mandy, is there a way you can pull it up on our
Yeah,
screen?
give me just 1 second, Jeff, and I'll pull it up for you.
Mandy, I'm just curious, did you give me sharing rights?
Yes, you do have sharing rights.
There we go, Jeff.
Interesting. All right. All right. So, like I was saying, one of the aspects of my job is to really support principals this year. And actually, it's one of the things I love the most, being able to reach out and work with the principals that we have this year has been fantastic. And so one of the questions is why? Why is this an aspect of my job? So Mandy, if you could go to the next slide. So when you think about it, the majority of our administrators this year are new either to our school district or the school that they're an administrator at, or the level, right? They might be formerly have a secondary experience and now they have at an elementary or vice versa, or their particular role or the program within the school, for example, dual immersion. So with that in mind, there's a lot of growth that's happening around our district, and there's steep learning curves. So we know that having strong instructional leadership is positively correlated with student achievement. So it is important to be able to build that capacity within our principal and leadership group. And lastly, principal habits of mind and routines impact effectiveness. So it's important as they're starting in those new roles to have some of those habits kind of dialed in and ready to support both teachers and students on their site. So my support of principals or site administrators have been in 3 different areas this year. One is kind of just day-to-day questions around, things that have to do with being a principal. The other is kind of the organizational management piece, like how do you structure your day to make sure that you're being effective. And then the other side is the leadership qualities. So what do we bring to the table as principal leaders and site leadership, site administrators, to be able to be effective in their roles. So looking a little more closely at the principal day-to-day logistics, I'm getting, this is I think a nice thing, because like we said, a lot of the job is unfamiliar to a lot of the people that are working right now as site administrators. It doesn't mean they're ineffective. It's just that a lot of the things that they're encountering are maybe unfamiliar. And I've been fortunate enough in my tenure to be an administrator at secondary as well as elementary. And so it's nice for them just to be able to pick up the phone if they have a question about anything that you see there on the left, teacher evaluation system, how does school site council work, COVID and quarantine rules, all of these things. They can just pick up the phone and give me a call, and I can offer them some support. In addition to that, there's also direct support and supervision. We're looking at things that like for example, today I was out at a school site. I was just able to help out with some recess duty supervision. And that happens from time to time. So I'm able to step in and support in different roles that people might need me on site. And it's been nice. There was one thing I did. I was able to meet with every site administrator for an hour in the fall. So far I've been able to go and meet with everybody and kind of get a feel for where they're at in their role, which has been nice. It's been a nice level of support. It's been helpful for me too, and I'm learning along with them. So the other aspect is organizational management. Some of those things fall under the breakthrough coach principles that our site administrators have been trained in. Again, that happened this year. I believe it was 4 half days for those who haven't had the training before. And it really just talks about how to make sure that your job as a principal is manageable and how are you structuring your day-to-day work to make sure that you're prioritizing things and making sure that we're able to get into classrooms and keeping the main thing. So you can see those things are like setting priorities, calendaring, how do you build your team's capacity, how are you using your secretary to help you, like I said, keep your priorities straight. And the last area I would say that my support has fallen under is that principal leadership piece. And this is something that Diana Ideas is also working with our principals on and our site administrators. She is from Hawthorne Union, the consulting group, and principals have been given kind of an overview of their leadership styles and what their strengths are and maybe what some of their blind spots are. And so we've had some discussions around, how do we leverage those strengths in our school site? How do we make sure people are being supported, recognizing what your own strengths and areas of improvement are. And I just put a couple down there as examples. There's things that I've had conversations with site administrators about. So that just gives you kind of an overview of the 3 different kind of categories or areas that I'm supporting principals in this year and kind of why that principal support is important with so many different people and so many new roles at each of our school sites.
Great. So I guess I'll go to the public and see if anyone has any questions for you about that. And this is just a discussion item. It is not an action item. Doesn't look like there's anybody who wants to address the board on this. Board members, do you have questions for Mr. Martin? Comments from Mr. Martin? I'm not seeing anything. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, we'll give you I see Dr. Eisendrath Rogers is giving you a big thumbs up. I know that everything I read is exactly what you've said, is that great schools need to have great communities, great teachers, and great leadership. And without all of those things, we're not going to have great schools. And so I really appreciate the help that you're giving, supporting our principals who will support their teachers, their communities, and their students. So thanks.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry, Mrs. Frame, did you have a question? I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
No, I just wanted to thank Mr. Martin for, I had a few questions and kind of clarifying a few things for me, but also it gave me a real insight into kind of that support, particularly this particular time that our, principals at new sites and in the time of COVID and just layer upon layer at our sites. And so any support that we can give our sites, I think it's really important. So thank you very much for clarifying those.
Mr. Buckman.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank you, Mr. Martin. I know that you took the time. I sent you some written comments and you did take the time to respond, and almost seem like I'm not interested right now, but it was good and it was good. Thank you very much for your responses.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Is there anybody else? Well, great, Jeff, and I see you're up for 10.03 summer experience update. So
That's right. And Mandy, it looks like I can actually share my screen now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that if that's all right. All right. It doesn't look like it's actually sharing anymore.
No, it's sharing, Jeff.
It
Just go
is
ahead.
sharing.
Yeah, go ahead and
Yeah.
hit present and it should work.
All right, very good. All right, so yeah, this is the other aspect of my job, and this is something that I'm really excited about. I appreciate Dr. Prater giving me the creative freedom to design a summer experience, a summer learning program that is innovative and different. I've been working with Debbie Blow, somebody who is a former superintendent down in Orchid, and we've been partnering kind of on this initiative, and so far it's been really exciting. So I just want to remind people kind of what we're going after here, how this is different, how this summer learning program is different than what we have done traditionally in summer school. So typically summer school, as you can see on the left-hand side there, was pretty much just for those who needed it the most as far as their intervention. They might have been working below grade level. It was only core academic instruction. And it was, again, kind of attended by some of our lower performing students, typically for 1 month and on a half-day schedule. What we're going after and shifting the summer learning experience into more of something that offers not only the core academic instruction, but also enrichment opportunities as well. And I should mention, first and foremost, this is going to be a free program this year for all participating students. That's super important to know. It may not continue to exist that way, but this year coming out is definitely going to be a free program for all families, students to participate in. So our goal too is to make the type of learning more relevant and engaging for students. That it's going to be a 6-week program, and it's going to be roughly 6 hours a day for our first grade through for 1st through 8th grade, and then around that, maybe 5.5 for our high school students. So we're just trying to be a lot more dynamic as well in terms of being creative with partnering with community agencies to offer some of the things that they might choose to do in our community, but having them work with us. Everything from maybe drama to Slow Creek, San Luis Obispo Creek restoration, things of that nature. There's different organizations that are working in different phases of our community, and we like to be able to partner with them and get our students involved. So again, it's also comprehensive: childcare, busing, food service, all will be provided just like it is during the regular school year. The other piece there, you see it says younger students accessing the high school campuses. We've done, our taxpayers have done, great things and put money forward, and we've been able to build wonderful, redesign our high schools, and to be able to allow our students to access those year round, I think is a really big bonus. And so that's my goal, is to be able to have like 5th through 8th graders in a separate area of the high school campuses, both Morro Bay High and San Luis High, and to be able to access some of the facilities in that way. So we'll see how that evolves. So summer experience, big picture here is just kind of what has been done, where are we now, and where are we going? And so I'm going to probably turn this over to Debbie now, because she has been doing work with some of our community members and stakeholder groups over the last year or so. And she'll kind of talk you through kind of an overview of the framework that we have created.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the framework. This has been 2 years in the process. I took it over in January of this year, but there was work that had been done the year prior. As you can see, there are components to this. The framework is important because it drives the work that we're doing. And a lot of the things that you're already starting to see are because of this framework. It's composed of our vision, where we want to be in 5 years. There are assurances under this, 10 assurances that will help us in achieving that vision. As you can see, I think some important components on this are flexibility of the program and engagement of the students and a truly creative program. And then next in that is there are 5 goal areas. And it's important with this academic achievement. Number 2, so important, opportunities for all. We want this summer program to be open to all students and highly engaged students, quality teaching and staff, and then quality care for our students. And then under each one of those goal areas, there are success indicators, and those are what we're going to be used to measure and make sure we're achieving our goals. But this has been great working with Jeff as we've continued to nuance this framework, and it's going to help us moving forward. And I really like to thank Dr. Prater and the board for the opportunity to work with Jeff on this exciting project. And he's going to tell you a little bit more about where we are now.
Absolutely. So we recognize too that the voice of our stakeholders, not only in this, creating the framework was important, but be able to see how, what do our students feel about, how do our students feel about summer learning? What is it that they want in a summer learning program? How about our families? What about our staff? So we've been able to kind of get, survey our different groups, get feedback from them to help inform our planning, which has been great. We've also aligned, we've kind of done, and again, the framework was kind of built on that best practice research, and there's a link there if you have access to this presentation. And I'm not going to go through a lot of it, but I will just show you briefly, what those best practices are, and just to make sure that you understand that we are trying to develop a program that is in strict kind of alignment with these researched best practices. So again, we're not going to go through this, but you can see that I've created this checklist that's based on the RAND study of all of the qualities of a sound and highly effective summer program, and some of which we've already completed, and some we haven't done yet. But you can see that we are well on our way. And there's different categories, as you can see: student recruitment and attendance. What do you need to do in core curriculum and instruction to make sure that you're developing an effective program, enrichment activities, etc. And so where are we now? We're kind of at the stage now where we need to finalize our schedule and really get that defined so that we can share that out, identifying different courses based on the feedback that we're going to offer in the summer program. And then starting with the teacher recruitment. I met with a group from Morro Bay High School yesterday, and going to be meeting with another group of CTE teachers at San Luis High coming up soon. And so that process will be kind of ongoing to make sure that we're staffing our program with teachers who are excited about doing this work with kids. And then finally, where are we going? What's ahead of us? We've got a lot there, as you can see, everything from defining those classes again to curriculum development, continuing to coordinate between our departments, whether within our district, whether it be transportation, human resources, food services. I've already set up some meetings that we're going to set up to keep people informed and plan as we go along. So, and like I mentioned earlier, just doing some more outreach to those community organizations so that we can partner together. All right, and so I've just thrown a lot of what we just kind of saw on that last slide on kind of a timeline here, so that you can see how this process will look from August all the way through to June when we start summer experience. And I went ahead and highlighted in blue just some of those kind of key components of our planning. So what are some of the big shifts we're trying to make? And I've kind of broken those up into the 3 areas. I kind of have elementary as a 1st through 4th grade for the sake of summer experience, with middle school being 5th through 8th. I know that's not how we do it during the regular school year, but like I mentioned before, I have that interest of being able to see our 5th through 8th graders doing their summer experience on our high school campuses. So at the elementary level, we're looking at teacher teams of 3 to be able to teach English language arts, math, and an enrichment class. So we might have an opportunity for a teacher, for example, to just come in and teach only English language arts to a group of students, but they would do it 3 times a day. And the same thing with math, the same thing with enrichment, and they would be working together as the teacher team of 3. There's going to be efforts to integrate the learning where we can. When I say integrate, I mean make it relevant for students, bring in some of those real world connections for them in terms of it being real cross-curricular. And then we have those 3 different strands that we're going to build around and offer some of those elective or enrichment classes in, right? Visual and performing arts, STEAM, and sports. And at the middle school, a lot of those same elements, but I'm looking to build in like a leadership academy too. We've been planning this in cooperation with Leader and me, and trying to get the idea being to getting some of our high school students working with younger students in elementary school in particular, and possibly middle school, some students who might be considered at risk and need some mentoring. I think we have an opportunity to do some of that, especially with our 5th and 8th graders, if we can get them on that high school campus. And then the high school programming is a little bit different in the sense that it is credit-based for the most part. We're adding in another layer where not only are students doing what they kind of have done in the past in terms of getting learning recovery credits, or even original credits if they want to take classes for the first time, but they're also going to be some expanding those electives as well, the CTE electives, and then also maybe some non-credit classes. One of the things that I was kind of surprised at when we surveyed our students was, my question was, would you be willing to take a class at the high school in the summer if it wasn't for credit? If the class was cool enough, would you take it? And I wonder what you think, how many students would say that, what percentage? I was shocked. It was 50% of our students, again, current 8th graders through 11th graders, who will be 9th through 12th, starting at the summer. 50% of them said they would take the class if it was cool enough. So that just shows me that we have an opportunity to engage our students in some cool things that they might want to learn more about, even if it's not for for a credit on their high school transcript. And again, I already mentioned that leadership piece. We might start out with avid students at the high school to be our mentors and get some real training as well through the Leader and Me program. So finally here, we're going to take a look at some of the classes that could be offered at those 3 levels: elementary, middle, and high school. I put the ones in blue are the ones that we could potentially see at the elementary site of grades 1 through 4. Again, we haven't landed on all of the set course of the classes yet, but these could be some of the offerings. And you can see there's a lot of, I think, really exciting topics that kids can explore here, whether they be some for credit and some not for credit at the high school level. But these are some of the things that they also, on the survey, they went ahead, they were given the opportunity to enter classes of their choice that they would like to take. And a few of these were popular classes that they added. So feel free to jump in if you have any questions around any of this information, but hopefully that gives you a good idea of kind of what we've been planning so far and where we're headed, and hopefully creating this innovative learning experience for students come this next summer. I wanted to thank the team. Debbie and myself have been working alongside several of the people you see here. So I just wanted to make sure that you understand it's not just a team of one or two, but there's a lot of our teachers on special assignments are doing a lot of great work in cooperation with us.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Is there anybody from the public that wants to talk to us about this, even though this is just a discussion item? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for questions or comments. Ms. Dolber-Drew, and then I think Mr. Buckman, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, and then Dr. Eisendrath-Rogers.
Yeah, thank you for this very detailed and wonderful, exciting presentation about the summer experience. The question is, how do you keep the student interests matched up with the teacher skills that can be provided, and how do you keep a glut from happening in one area and a dearth in another area? And would it be you did say it's open to everybody, I think, and how do you handle everybody with the teachers that are being provided and resources and everything?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one of it is a bit of an uncertainty at this point, right? It's always that challenge of matching what students want, whether it be in a credit-based class or an enrichment class, with what we can staff, right? So that's going to be that piece where it's really important that we're able to staff as many of these courses as we can. Sometimes it's about what does that teacher want to do that might be creative and different than what they teach during the school year. I was just having an email conversation today with one of our shop teachers, and they were like interested in thinking about what they could teach. It wouldn't necessarily be a credit-bearing class that they teach during the school year, but an interest of theirs that they feel would really connect with students. So I don't know if that's a direct answer to your question, but it is going to be one of our challenges to make sure that we develop a program that's staffed appropriately with what the students want.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of faith and a lot of taking risks, really. So, but it'll all be for the good of everybody, I'm sure. It sounds great. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mark.
Yeah,
And then
thank you.
Catherine.
And then me.
Oh, and then Marilyn, sorry. Didn't see you.
Hi, Debbie. This is Mark. We've done some work together. It's good
Yes,
to see you
it's
again.
good to see you.
Yeah, it's great. So I have about 4 questions. And so we talked in the presentation, there's some material about success indicators in years following, I guess, compared to this year. Is there any way that we're going to check? Is there any check and balance to see about success indicators for this summer? So within the program, within this period of time?
Yes, we will be starting this summer. Some of them, like student attendance, we can look at trends from previous years and compare them at the end of this school year. And then, as you said, a lot of them will be things that will get baseline data this year and then in following years.
Okay. And then there's some references to library books, and I love books, but I didn't see a lot of references to some tech, like we've got I don't know how many laptops we have right now and hotspots, but is that something that we're potentially going to be seeing, some tech toys, some tech for the kids?
Yeah, I could weigh in on that. I think that's an interest of ours. I think this last summer it was, having students having done so much work on their computers, there was a real interest in seeing if we could move away from that. Right. So I think it's something that, it's an interest of ours to be able to make sure that students have those devices in front of them to use as that tool as needed, to make sure that we have kind of that balanced approach though, right? We're not doing too much of one over the other.
Okay. And then just finally, the Wallace report and some of your documentation references that a great program is a full day program.
Yeah.
And then we'll be presenting this wonderful program, but we'll be doing both full day and half day.
Yeah. So
can you help me on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, our goal will be for those students who really need that extra time and support, that academic support, and they might need it in English language arts and math. Our goal would be to see those students do that full day program, right? And so that'll be part of that student recruitment piece. That'll be important. by the same token, there might not be a student, there might be some families or students who just want to come in and take that one enrichment class, right? That one class during the day that they're particularly interested in, and then they have enough plans for something else, you know, other commitment at the other end of their day. So we didn't want to exclude a population of our families and our students and lock them into, hey, if you're going to go to summer school, you've got to, or summer experience, you've got to do it all day. You know what I mean? So we wanted to provide that flexibility and that option for families, but at the same time, offer that full day for those who want it and need it.
Thank you very much. Oh, Debbie, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, one of the assurances was around the area of flexibility. So for some families that only wanted a half day, we wanted to provide that flexibility for them.
So thank you very much for the answers. And also, this looks like it's going to just be an amazing program. Thank you for that too.
Thank you.
Okay, Catherine.
Hi, is there any possibility that we will be able to incorporate some of the elements of the I Innovate program as well? Will our summer school students be able to access that?
Yeah, so we've talked quite a bit about that. That's kind of the big question right now that we need to really move on. It's like, what is our, especially in our 1st through 4th grade programming, you know, what curriculum are we going to use? How can we integrate, kind of like I talked about before, some of the experiences for students that are more hands-on, where they get a chance to apply their learning. So that's our goal. What that looks like, we don't want to just purchase a canned program, right? We're not that's not going to meet our needs. We do want to be able to be thoughtful about it. And the question is, right now, we haven't determined exactly how that's going to look at the different levels.
Yeah, I hope for that, because I think we have some opportunities here to sort of mend together what we're working on separately right now. So that would be fantastic.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for your input on that.
Marilyn.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, this is a really exciting total remake of what the old summer school was. And I can see where this would be interesting to our students and would be a draw for them. And I really love the potential course offerings. I guess I have 2 questions. I'm wondering, have you been able, and I know it's really early, to dipstick teacher interest in participation? I think in the last summer school of 21, the one that we just had, we were able to incentivize some of our veteran teachers to participate, but I'm wondering if you have any sense of interest in participation in the coming year. And then my other question, just so we have both of them, was on the slide number 5. Is that the one?
Big shifts?
No. Yes, it's, I beg your pardon, it's on slide number 3, where under where are we going? You have noted finalizing community partnerships. And I wonder if you have any sense at this point of what types of community partnerships you might be looking to form?
Yeah, 2 great questions. So first on the staffing piece, we have been able to kind of do a dipstick of interest, but it hasn't been across the board. The last thing we wanted to do over the last month is give teachers another survey. I think that might have put them over the edge, but we have reached out not only to we have input from the teachers who did teach it last year, you know, and whether or not they'd be interested in doing it again. And then we've, like I said, I've talked to elective teachers at Morro Bay High School. I'm going to be talking to San Luis High School elective teachers next week. And so we have done some, but not across the board yet. And then as far as the community partnerships go, I mean, we have already established some kind of partnerships with like Creek Lands, who are developing the protecting our watersheds lessons that several of our 3rd and 4th grade teachers are teaching in classrooms. And so they have that interest in taking a group out to San Luis Obispo Creek and possibly Chorro Creek out in Morro Bay to do some habitat restoration and some science, hands-on science. That would be one example. I would like to reach out. I'm in the process of reaching out to our city organizations too, and talking about what that could look like as far as using our swimming pools possibly getting some students who are interested certified in being a lifeguard, so that then we can hire them to maybe work that second session, or maybe we can get them hired certified this spring so that they can work all summer as a lifeguard. Aaron Primer and I are talking about how we can build in the culinary arts strand for kids. I know we've got a huge, what I've learned recently by doing our I Innovate work is that we have a huge number of drone companies locally. So I'm hoping to do some outreach to some of them and see if we can connect and have them come out and do some great things with our students around drones, flying challenges. There's a lot of cool things that we can do. So those are just some of the examples of the communities, agencies that we're looking to work with.
That sounds terrific. I can tell you've already put a lot of thought into this, and I look forward to seeing where it goes. Thank you.
Yeah, me too.
Dr. Prater, do you have I think Evelyn and Mark both have comments,
I do
but did you
too.
have
No, go
a
ahead.
comment first?
And
I as
Oh,
well.
and Ellen too, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, Mr. Martin, I really appreciate that. And Dr. Blow, your work on this. The partnerships are going to be key. Because over time, we're looking for sustainability. We don't want to make this a us versus them. And we have some really important relationships that we've nurtured through the years with both City of SLO and the City of Morro Bay, their Park and Recs departments, as well as the YMCA. And we're currently developing a relationship with the Boys and Girls Club of America. And so those are really important when it comes to childcare and extending that 6-hour day into an 8 or 9 hour day, and working with parents to create some opportunities for them to have a full day at work where their kids are in a supervised setting that's highly exciting and engaging. So it could really help our families. We know it will really help our kids. And so it'll evolve. There's also Quest to College for Kids. There's also SLO Symphony. There are the Community Counseling Center. There's the opportunities for mentorship and paid internships for kids. I just can go on and on. So I feel that we're just scratching the surface of what those partnerships will look like. And that's what I wanted to put across, is that this will be a multi-year development, because my ultimate goal is to see our summer model as a really exciting time for kids to look forward to, for parents to look forward to it, where the barriers of equity are removed, where all kids, San Luis Coastal kids, can attend, and parents know their kids are engaged and excited to be involved in these very important, I think, child development courses. And we're working also on a youth athletic league that the kids can do their academics a part of the day, and then get involved in youth sports a part of the day in very structured and deliberative ways. So I'm excited for where this is going. It's not lost on me that this is an expensive undertaking, but because of the COVID dollars, the state and federal dollars, this is an opportunity for us to develop it, create the model, partnership with our foundation board, which has been phenomenal. And then once we really create that framework and really make it work, and honor our teachers by paying them a per diem rate, okay, which is a big difference in what his past practice has been, we can really, really do a great service to our community and to our district employees. So I'm excited for it. My goal over the long term is to find ways to subsidize this, where it's not just coming out of the general fund of the district, but it's shared. And those are the things I'll be working on.
So Evelyn, Ellen, and then Mark.
I'm trying to organize my.
Okay, how about Ellen, Evelyn, and then Mark?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. The first one is just sort of logistically, because it sounds as though this, I'm very excited that this is open to everyone. Will there need to be any limit on the number of students we can take in this first year?
Yeah, I can jump in on that. I mean, it's really comes down to that staffing piece, right? And the goal is to keep class sizes smaller than they would be during the regular school year. So it may be, we may be in a position where we have to cap certain classes, and depending on our staffing levels. But the goal, I think, is to even, we may have to look beyond our own district teachers and our own district staff, right? If we have the interest, came in on the survey that it was upwards of 75% of our families that responded said that they would be interested in having their child participate in our summer programming. Well, if you do the math on that, that's a lot of kids, and I think we can do it, but it's going to be one of those things that right now is a little bit one of those uncertainties. So if we don't have enough staff, then there would obviously be a need to cap the, some of those enrollments.
Thank you. And then secondly, I was really intrigued by your comment, Jeff, about the shop teacher indicating that, it may not be something normally taught. And I'm curious as to, whether there might be other opportunities for students. And I know this would depend on staffing and interest and all of that, but for teachers to actually talk to them about what do you teach? What do you love about your subject area that you don't get to spend enough time on during the year and that you really wish you could spend more time on? So would it be possible to have a 4 or 6 week class just on poetry or on art or on only in a much more intensive, immersive way than is able to occur during the year? And I know, again, these are the kinds of things that may not be able to occur the first year as this is getting off the ground, but I would really be interested in seeing those kinds of opportunities be explored as we move forward with this, to really provide students with an opportunity to say, I wish we spent more time. I know we're really, through the foundation and through I Innovate, we have a lot of focus on science and tech, which is wonderful and is necessary. But I think that an interest with kids who may have a focus, may be interested in some other things that they feel they don't have an opportunity to spend the time on. And I think this could go down to our youngest students, to have that be a way to explore things more deeply. And this may provide a good setting in which to do that. If not, again, it's just an interest of mine and seeing a more holistic approach to our kids and providing them with opportunities, really seeing it as opportunities that they wouldn't be able to avail themselves on during the regular school year.
Yeah, and that's why that level of choice comes in, right?
Yeah.
The students get a choice to choose what elective strand that they might be most interested in. And then there's some level of choice for teachers as well. So thank you for offering that up, because that'll be something that we will want to kind of highlight in some way in that teacher recruitment process. We want to staff the A through G required classes and all of those too, but I think there's room for that, right? A passionate teacher who wants to, like you said, loves to teach poetry, but that doesn't fit within a specified course for credit. Maybe that's something that he or she's able to do and attract students into that class.
And it could be for younger kids as well. I mean, not everything, if we're going to have it be all K-12, then, some of those things may be attractive to the younger students as well.
We did a little bit of that this past summer with our enrichment classes, where the teachers kind of got to select an area they were passionate about. So that's something we can build on as we continue this work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Evelyn, are you ready yet?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Mr. Martin, a couple of questions. One would be, will there be parent forums, surveys, where parents can provide, feedback on some of the structure that you're looking at, such as having, certain grade levels be at the high school, and, will we give parents, enough heads up that they can have robust input? Or
It's a great question, Evelyn. Thank you for reminding me. I was supposed to talk about that, wasn't I? No, you're absolutely, yeah. I was going to mention that and I didn't. So thank you for sharing that. Next Tuesday from 6 to 7 o'clock, we are hosting a parent forum for just that very thing. So we want to be able to give families an opportunity to hear what we're trying to build and design for summer learning, and then to weigh in on, elements that they think are important for our summer experience. So yes, we're going to do that next Tuesday in that parent forum.
Okay, and I have a couple more questions. One I was thinking of, and Dr. Eisendrath-Rogers and Ms. Sheffer kind of brought this to mind. Is there any way or ideas, and maybe not this year, but a kind of a vision of creating after these, 6-week some kind of culminating, presentation for our communities, like a drama event or a showpiece that our community really sees, community project where they really see what great work our students do and service to our communities, so that there's really this engagement, interaction on levels, but that kind of also integration. Are we beginning to think in terms like that, or build that in? Or?
Yes, absolutely. See, I love that. We got to bring you on board, Evelyn. We got to bring you on board. That's a great idea. The one that we've actually thought of. Debbie, Dr. Blow has had previous experience with that kind of culminating showcase. And yes, that is front and center with our conversations about how we can engage our community partners too. So maybe, in that process, so that students have a chance to share their learning, their project, what have you, with an authentic audience, right? Somebody in the field with whatever it is they might be working on.
Okay, thank you. And my last question, and the other thing is, so many times we go to our community. Our community is very supportive of us, but showing them we know how to give back, whether it's those, work projects or, solving problems that occur in the community, whatever is, identified. But my final question is getting back to what Dr. Prater was talking about, and we had a little bit of discussion. What can we do to ensure equity between kind of our coastal offerings and in town? Because of those, there's just such a greater plethora of community-based organizations in town, and we do have, but what can we do to align our course offer so they're not exactly the same, but they are, our students have those experiences, similar experiences in culinary or, watershed, or what does that look like?
I think we're just going to have to be mindful, right? Like you say, they don't have to mirror each other, but they should be equitable in terms of the types of offerings that we have for students on the coast and the students that we have in San Luis. And, I think you bring up a good point. Like, I don't know the exact answer to it, but I think it's something we're going to have to be mindful of as we develop, the opportunities for students on both ends. We might in both areas, excuse me. We have a lot more students in the city that will be likely participating, and so obviously we're going to need more classes to offer those students. But I think you bring up a good point, right? And that was something that a member of Morro Bay staff had shared with me too. Like, I think we need to have some equity in terms of, like, if an auto shop is offered in San Luis, let's try to make sure that it's also offered, at our school on the coast for our students. So yeah, I think it's important. We're gonna have to be mindful of that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mark, then Marilyn, and then back to Ellen.
Thanks, Jeff. I had two thoughts while I was listening to my fellow board members. And one is, as we start this, this year-round learning opportunity for kids, what's kind of an assurance that we can send to parents that their kids will also be able to go, that all kids will be able to go? So will there be after school for the kids who can't be picked up right away? Will be there, sort of the YMCA type program? Will there be, I think I read that there's going to be lunch offered to anybody that wants it, but maybe there's going to need to be some after school snacks or something like that, so that parents from all walks of life can feel comfortable taking part in this.
Yeah. And that's that equity piece that Dr. Prater spoke of, and it really is front and center with our planning. And that's going to be pivotal, right? To get those community agencies on board too, right? The people that we typically work with during the school year, Parks and Rec, this, YMCA, those types of organizations, to make sure that we're partnering with them to be able to allow that, extended day for those students, for our working families. And then again, like you said, that food piece, making sure that we have students that are fed in the process. All of those things we need to, be thinking of as we plan.
Okay, and then just lastly, later on in this board meeting, we're going to be talking about work experience.
Oh, great.
Students. And I'm just, this is now looking at it in reverse. If we'd had that, are there possibilities within this program that we could actually have kids doing work experience? And so one that pops to mind for me instantly is, can high school kids be mentoring elementary kids, and we actually have somebody monitoring that, and we actually pay them something, or at least they get some kind of credit for doing it. So just throwing that out, because as I read the later on work experience, and now I'm hearing this, it just seems like there's some opportunities that might be there.
Yeah.
That's thank you.
Well, I tell you, you're all of your board members, you're showing your creative capacity tonight, because it's things that we've actually been mindful of, and been trying to plan and develop into our program as well. So as you can see, right here, there is that under the far right column of other work experience. It's on our minds. We know we offer it during the school year, but I've been in conversations with the teachers and Mr. O'Connor, and it's like we want to be able to build on that.
Yep. I thought I was being
so. And kids showed that was one of their number one thing they were interested in, is being able to go out into our community, get a job, and we know we need labor right now in our communities, and be able to possibly earn elective credit for it.
Well, I thought it was my brilliant idea, but I'm glad that it's there.
All right, Ellen. Marilyn has.
I just have a quick question. I wanted to confirm. I see that that you do have on the slide about what's different about summer experience, you do show busing, but I wanted to confirm that transportation will be included in this.
That's our hope. I mean, I know right now that we are dealing with shortages, in some of our staffing and bus drivers and such. So that's our goal. And I did talk with transportation, and they're hopeful that they can continue to get students to school in the summertime with the same rules that we have in place now.
Okay.
That's their hope, right? But I think there's, there's 1 mile outside of the school. If you live outside of that, then you're going to be bused at elementary levels. And then I think it's 2 miles maybe for secondary or something along those lines. So that's the hope, is that we can find those drivers to get kids to the program, because that will be a piece that'll be critical, right? And important for students to access this opportunity.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Prater, do you have anything else you want?
Yeah, Mr. Martin's hedging over here. And what I will say is, after Mr. Martin came and spoke with our student senators, unequivocally, all of the student senators, when we asked, is transportation important for the summer school program, summer model, and virtually all of them raised their hands. So what I can say is, we must make that a priority, otherwise kids won't be able to get there. So you can think of it this way: parents are working, kids are across town, they have to get from Los Osos Valley Road across on, I'm just near C.L. Smith, and they attend high school, and they're involved in the theater production program and Spanish 2, because they want to move forward and accelerate through. Those are their 2 classes, plus they want to have a work experience mentorship concept with some younger kids that they get paid for. They must get to Slow High every day by 8:30. So if transportation is not offered, then they can't do it. And then the parents who are at work they need that child to stay and watch the younger kids who also need the transportation. So it's a domino effect. So we have to make that transportation component a priority, which is why we want to do this now. We want to develop it now so we can make those commitments to our families and early, so that we can prepare and recruit the necessary transportation drivers and so forth. And that's why when Mr. Martin says yes, that we hope to make that happen, I look at it as a premier equity response. We have to make that happen. And it may mean that some kids might be on the bus longer than we'd like to get them there, right? Because of that shortage potentially. And I'm okay with that. It's not ideal, but I'm okay as long as we can get the kids there. So that's why, and then when we talk about partnerships, could also be that we work with the cities of Morro Bay and SLO and ATF, is it not ATF, RTA, sorry, and to work on our coastal transportation for those as a backup plan. So there's lots of ways we can make this work, but it is going to be a priority.
I think that's it. Well, this is really, I'll just close with, this is really exciting. I was thinking back to a time when I remember my father making me, telling me I had to go to summer school and how terribly upset I was about it, and fighting and screaming and yelling and stuff like that, crying. This is something that I think you'd have to drag me away from. So thanks, you guys. I really appreciate it. Dr. Prater, Jeff, Dr. Blow, I think this is something I think that absolutely is an equity issue, and absolutely will provide kids that push that we know they need during the summer, so that we don't experience that summer learning loss, and continuing to get them excited about school, feeling like school is a welcoming place, and those school connections that we know kids need to have, again, in order to be successful. So thank you very much. We'll go to item number 10.04, which is approval of 2021-2022 single plans for student achievement. And I believe that's going to be Mr. Mayfield and Mr. O'Connor.
That's right.
As we're tag teaming tonight.
Yes, we are. Good evening. In front of you tonight are the single plans for student achievement, or school plans for student achievement, either one, otherwise known as the SPSA. And by California Education Code, each site is responsible for developing, in coordination with the school site council, a single plan for student achievement that reflects the major goals and activities that school site will undertake during the course of the year. As you've seen by looking at those, they're long documents with a lot of details. There's data points in there in all areas, all of the goals. And each of the goals are aligned with our LCAP process. It's been a goal of this district, as you know, to align board goals with our LCAP, with our single plans for student achievement, so that we're all literally on the same page and working in the same direction. And so we've invited two principals to share with us tonight. We're going to begin with Katie Salcido at Monarch Grove to share some of the elementary highlights from her single plan. Katie.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayfield. Thank you, board and cabinet. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm so excited to be able to represent Monarch Grove and share with you some of our highlights from our single plan for student achievement. I'm going to share my screen. I've prepared a few slides. All right. So some of the highlights of our SIPSA include academics. To support academics for all of our students, we have the privilege of having 3 4-hour academic intervention teachers who are supporting the language arts through our WIN, which stands for What I Need, pull-out groups. This is some intense academic instruction that's really targeted and designed to meet the needs of students right where they are from different assessments. We also have 2 instructional assistants through MTSS that are providing math support. This is a push-in model for all classes. All of these assistants in our classrooms provide the teachers with extra support during their math instruction so that more students are getting that adult supervision they need to do well in their classes. This additional support is for all of our students. Our SIPSA highlights for our social emotional focus. We do things such as Leader in Me, check in and check out, which is where we have adults checking in with students who have some behavior issues to get them a goal for the day and something to focus on. Then they check in with them at the end of the day to see how they've done. We have a counselor 2 days a week. We have a counseling aide full-time. This is new for us this year. We've used our Title I funds to support this. This person helps us with our social emotional behavior issues. She helps regulate students, checks in with them, and also provides support for our leader and me. And we also have the benefit of 1 day a week having a marriage and family therapist on site. A little bit more about Leader in Me. So Leader in Me is a program unique to Monarch Grove, and we are so excited to have it. One thing that it does, all of our classes develop mission statements and have class jobs. So an example of a class mission statement is actually up there on your left. I took a picture of that because it was super cute. This class said, we are a successful community of learners who work together to try our best and complete our goals. All of our classrooms worked on creating a class mission statement in the first couple of weeks. The students pored over the semantics and the wording to get it just right to express what they feel like they stand for. Class jobs as part of a Leader in Me is giving students the opportunity to be leaders in everyday class. This includes things like volume monitor or materials monitor, someone who passes out the papers. They also have line leaders. So anything that we can do to have students become leaders in the classroom and on the field is a great day. We also have junior lighthouse leaders. This is our 5th grade students. They were selected to help lead our school. They do a variety of different tasks, including school-wide jobs, where they help in the library, they run recess games, and they work with other students. They also run our assemblies. Speaking of which, we have just started implementing again monthly leadership assemblies. We started our first one just this last week, and it was a fantastic success. While using all of our different COVID restrictions, the students were able to put on an assembly where our junior lighthouse leaders were able to demonstrate some of the habits and how to act effectively and supportively to our fellow students while on the play yard. We also recognized a Leader of the Month, and the students received a certificate for that. These are going to be monthly for the rest of the year. We are basically implementing the seven habits inside and outside of the classroom. This is focusing on those character traits that students are working towards working together, whether they're in the classroom or on the play field. An example of that is students talk about synergizing. That means working better together. In the classroom, it works like effective group work. And on the play field, it's collaborative play. And you can see the students using these words and these character traits when they're together. Another one is seek first to understand, then be understood. We use this habit when we use restorative practices with our students when we have behavior issues. The students talk through situations, they gain empathy for how they might have made someone feel through their actions, and then they verbally explain to each other how they're going to do better in similar situations in the future. A final highlight for us is some of our after-school supports. We're very excited to use some of our Title I funds to have a homework club. We do this every day after school for an hour. This is for our EL students. We have a bilingual teacher who supports all of our EL students with all of their homework needs. We also have an ST Math Club where students are targeted and identified as needing additional help with ST Math, and they are supported with our MTSS IAs after school. So those are just a few of the highlights at Monarch Grove. I've developed this tagline for our school because it really encompasses what we do. So Monarch Grove Elementary, developing leaders through inspired learning. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen.
I'll ask the board. Now's a good time to see if anybody has any questions for Dr. Salcido. Ms. Dolber-Drew.
Yeah, that's such a lovely program, that Leader in Me. And it's just Monarch Grove only, you say. I was surprised. But the question is about the implementing the 7 habits. Is that from the Stephen Covey program?
Yes, the Leader in Me is a Stephen Covey. It's a Covey Franklin company, and it does focus on all of the 7 habits. So yes, that's what it's from.
Love it.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Salcido? Okay. Mr. O'Connor, I think you're up to bat.
Yes. Thank you. I've invited Mr. Bloom from Los Osos Middle School to walk you through some of the highlights from his SPSA.
All righty. Hello.
board
Hello, Carl.
and everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hello, board and everybody in attendance. Katie, great job. And obviously you're prepping kids for LOMS and we're always excited about that. I wanted to highlight a couple of things in our SPSA that we're doing that's centered around the student achievement area. As you all know, we had a wonderful beginning of school in service with Doug Fisher and Karen Fry, with our ILT, which is our instructional leadership teams with Doug Fisher, and our entire staffs with Karen Fry. And it was really awesome work, this teacher clarity piece. And so that is a portion of what is in our student achievement component. We're going to be working through the teacher clarity playbook. We've already dropped some components of it without having the book yet, but they just arrived. So we're excited about working through Doug's companion book that goes along with the clarity program that we're introduced to. One of the ways that we're going to achieve this is we're going to ask that the students see clarity in what they're learning, so that the questions of the day, the what am I learning, the why am I learning it, and the how will I know I've learned it, will be discussed in class. And we're seeing already throughout many classrooms at LOMS, teachers that start their day talking about what the learning is going to be, why it's important, and how will I know. And I think that some teachers have infused this into their lessons in multiple stop points in the 54-minute class periods. So it's refreshing to see. And one of the main premises of Doug Fisher is there should be no secrets in our learning. We should all see the clear path of what we're doing. And if you all think back to your middle school days, I'm sure there was a little bit of daydreaming going on. And you're looking around the room, and if you keep looking at the what am I learning and the why am I learning it and the how on the board, because it's predominantly placed, that begins to reinforce itself in you. And as the teachers reinforce it, it becomes part of the culture. The other piece that we're asking our staff to continue to work on is increasing student discussion. This is something that our Superintendent Senate and Youth Truth Survey wanted to see happen. They wanted kids to be talking more in class, whether it was relevant social issues or just topical stuff. They feel, I think kids know that when they're engaged in the learning process, it's definitely can be more meaningful than listening for 54 minutes. So that's our piece on teacher clarity under student achievement. The next area that I'm really excited about that we've started down this road, and it's a work in progress, because it's as the teacher that I've hired for the ELD component at LOMS is taking a broad look at what we're doing and who our kids are. Some of the things that we thought were going to be the appropriate supports are not appropriate, and we're going to be making those adjustments into next year also. So what's happened, I was able to hire a former LOMS Morro Bay grad who was up in Marin, Faye Padeachi. She was I think she ran for Carrie Norelli back in the day, and she had experience as far as her credentials. She's a history credential and an English credential and a Spanish authorization. So she was the bilingual person that we were really looking for at LOMS. And so I gave her the charge of looking at the Avid Excel program, which is designed for long-term English learners. And we implemented an Avid Excel class this year. We restarted an formal ELD 1 class, and Faye has been looking at curriculum, and actually part of her duty is to build that out. She's also, similar to the special ed model and a co-teach model, she's co-teaching in one class that has predominant number of students that are in her Avid Excel and ELD 1s. And she's also teaching or shared humanities core with another 8th grade teacher. And so throughout this, you're saying, well, how is this going to change next year? What she's found is that, in San Luis Coastal, we have most of our ELs at LOMS are what we consider LTELs. They've been with us since probably kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, and they just haven't got over the hump of the RFEP passing the LPAC exam. And so what typically you would have in an ELD1 class would be your 1s and 2s. So you're very low achieving English learners. And she's realized that basically our 1s stand alone at Loams, and our 2s, 3s, and 4s could all be put together. And a better way to put them together would be by grade level. So next year, we plan on having an ELD1 for all grades of students that are down there with a 1 on their LPAC scores. And then our 2, 3, and 4 kids will be separated into a 7th and an 8th grade section. This way we capture all the 6th graders in this ELD1. And then the following year, they'll end up potentially with 2 years of Avid Excel, which uses all the Avid techniques. But again, it's designed to improve English reading, fluency, writing, and understanding. So she's been doing this, and it's been exciting because she's building a culture with the kids. We started the year off introducing her. We had probably 25 of our EL families in attendance in our MPR, masked on, of course, with all our protocols. And it was really nice for them to kind of meet and see her. And so we're constantly trying to grow our EL piece, and she's involved with our ELAC meetings and helping me with our messaging also. We are pushing for all, not only our Avid Excel kids, but all of our Avid kids to get in our College Bound Today program, which is going to be in its 2nd year this year. And again, it's another way that we're connecting with that community. So that's kind of huge for us. I think it really kind of creates a safe space for those kids. And initially, she had thought that having them all kind of, the majority of them, you know, a third of a class in one humanities class rather than spread out across the school population was going to be a little bit odd, right? That the class was going to be a little concentrated. And after she talked with the kids, they said, no, we like it. We like having you as support, and we like this piece. But I think in our longer range model, we're going to look to ask for an EL aide that can support, so we can have her supporting in co-teaching and also an EL aide. So those are the 2 biggies in our LCAP. I did want to chime in about 2 other things that we are doing that fit under the culture of care. You know, a lot of our SPSAs in secondary, well, and in elementary, are many things across the board that we're doing as a whole district. And one of these things we're doing for SEL, as you know, is the Second Step program that through Janet and Shelley Benson, we're pushing out to all of our kids at Loams and through our advisory. And we're doing that every other week with kids. And, you know, the teachers have expressed that they like it. It's not overbearing to do. And there's actually some really good lessons in there for the kiddos. And the last thing we're doing at Loams under the culture of care is we have our equity and inclusivity kind of ongoing institute in one of our monthly staff meetings with the Cultural Creations company, which is Sandra Saruf Levine and Pedro Arroyo. We're doing this over 7 staff meetings that started in August and will end in February. And I know this is kind of a district pilot. So those are some of the highlights of the Loams SPSA. Any questions?
Questions from board members? Mrs. Frame.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom, for the presentation. Couple of questions that I had. One was, and I didn't realize, for the you know, this fabulous teacher that you were able to find, and the class she's developed, is it by choice, or students put in? Do they get it? I mean, how does that work for their schedule?
Well, in the perfect world, Avid and Avid Excel are elective courses. And we actually requested these kids give it a shot. And they're all in there, and they all want to be back in 2nd semester. So just like Avid is a choice for a student that's not an EL student, the majority of our Avid kids get in Avid, choose to take it and stay. And I think that's one of the pieces that Ms. Padiachi is working on, is that culture of a team and a bond. so that they feel like this is a good place for them, and it's going to have end game, which is getting them more prepared for high school and more prepared to look beyond high school into 4-year and community college.
Okay, so is that, that they needing to take that, is that kind of an artificial construct because of the number of periods we have in the day? If we had an extra period or something, they would have the ability to, is that,
So
am I correct? All right.
classes like AVID, our Math Plus intervention,
Mhm.
occasionally we would have an English writing intervention. Those are all what I don't consider AVID any type of an intervention. I think of it as an amazing opportunity, but it also means that a student taking AVID or Math Plus or, those types of classes, they don't get a STEAM elective. They don't get to do that and band or that and something else unless they do one of two things. They take their choir kids. So they take choir in a 7th period, which is after school. Not going to be confused with a true 7-period day, right? It's like 0 period. So 0 period, we had choir and PE last year. Now it's just PE 0 period, and Katie Bravante has shifted choir to the afternoon so that she's getting more attendance at both Morro Bay and Loams, which is great. So kids have these 2 options to take PE and not take it during the day and take 2 electives, or take choir in the end of the day and get another elective added in. But it does not really equate to a 7-period day, because it's an extension on the day. And obviously for some families, it's an inconvenience to do that, or maybe it's because out of station, you're able to do it because you have to get transportation to get there in the morning for the PE. And we do have a late bus that is taking the kids home from choir, which is a wonderful thing. And that's our late bus that serves homework club, choir now, and our sports teams that are going on.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. The last thing I had is, one of the great features of Loams is we have, a great diversity with our Filipino students and our Latino students, and I know we have some Syrian students. What, and I don't really know about, do we have those bridges built along, the multicultural aspect? Either through, what other activities, or I also don't know if some of our Filipino families that speak Ilocano or Tagalog are also in part of our EL programs. Could you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, so some of those students are in our EL program because they're either new to us or they haven't taken the LPAC and passed it. And our supports for them, to be very frank, are not the same as what they are for our Spanish speakers. I know, in our Avid Excel, where we do have one of the Arabic speaking students and several Filipinos, that the challenge is for Ms. Pediachi to grow their language acquisition, which is the same skills that it would be for Spanish speakers. But she isn't able to relate the same way with their home language. So, but the skills are the same strategies of writing and reading are the same. So she's using those tried and true Avid strategies with EL enrichment strategies to grow the kids.
No, thank you. I just, it's kind of one of the unique things that, on the coast, we have it's a great population to really support our Filipino population and some others. So it was just a quick question. So thank you very much for all of your information and your hard work. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
I think, Ellen, did you have your light on?
Yeah, it's just this is just a comment. I think one of the things and this is more for Mr. O'Connor and Mr. Mayfield, I think one of the things that is really, I appreciate about working on the SIPSAs is each school is the makeup of the group from each site who helps prepare this. And I was on school site council for several years, and then the management team at the high school. And I think knowing that their classroom teachers, the principal, others, school staff, community representatives once in a while, if if one can be found who wants to do this work, and then a large number of parent representatives. So this provides a good opportunity for parents to both learn about how their student's school works and where the money comes from and how to earmark some of that money to go where needed. So I think it's important to understand and appreciate the work that goes into this, and that there is a great deal of participation, with as many stakeholders as possible. So that's my comment.
Before Mark, I go to you. Mr. Bloom, you do have a student on your school site council and is not, and perhaps I'm mistaking it for your school, for another school, is not your student your chair of your school site council?
Yes, we do, actually. When we had our first meeting to instill our school site council, we had a handful of parents, we had a handful of teachers, and Mr. Hoskins, who's also our leadership teacher, we've used the leadership capacity to ask some of the 8th grade students to come and join us. And we didn't have a huge commitment from a parent. They were very happy to be present at meetings, but didn't feel like they wanted to launch and run the meeting. So we are a work in progress. We go a little slower in our school site council meetings, walking through some of Robert's rules of order and things like that. But we have Emerson Jacquet, who is our vice president of ASB, also is our school site council president.
Great. Mark.
Yeah, thanks. So when I went through all of these, I started to get some like overarching questions and some observations. So I'd like to lay them out. I don't know if I'm going to get answers tonight, and I know I'm only one board member, but these are some things that I noticed. It appears to me that when we look at the SED results, and just sometimes they're like 20% lower than non-SED students, but that same 20% number seems to carry all the way through to the secondary schools. And so do I interpret that we're not making any headway with SED students? I just don't know.
We'll go one question at a time. Is that how you?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Okay. It would be very difficult to say that 20% is that we're not making headway with students. Now, the population changes.
Okay.
I think students enter and exit the SED status. I think it's really difficult, especially now with the interruption to data that we've had, to look at those numbers and say this is evidence that we're not making progress over time with the SED population.
Great. Okay.
Before we go on, are there questions directly for Mr. Bloom? Because I think Mr. Bloom probably wants to get back to the ball game, which I see is going on in his background.
Yeah, I'm a pirate
So are
fan.
there questions specifically for Mr. Bloom? And if not, then we can release Mr. Bloom and just go to the tag team of Mayfield and O'Connor.
Thank you, Katie and Carl,
Okay.
for being with us
Oh, and
tonight.
I
Appreciate it.
see Mrs. Roger has a question for Mr. Bloom.
Mr. Bloom, if I can't watch the ball game, neither can you.
I am most certainly not watching this ball game.
I love the innovation that's going on at Los Osos Middle School. And I really applaud you for your leadership there. I was on site council there, for 2 years, and there were no students. And it was not really a highly effective group, I didn't think. And I think that your group I love the representation that's there. And I love the innovative things that you're doing at Loams, which is not to say, that I don't think there are great things happening at Laguna as well, or at the high schools, but it stood out for me that you guys are really, you're on it. And I appreciate it. And it shows in your SPSA.
Yeah, thank you. We're trying really hard to get these kids back in their groove. That's for sure.
Okay, you can go back to the ball game now. The ball game you're not watching.
I'm a Pirate fan. My season ends in September. They're golfing.
I think your season ended way before that, but
I think it ended in June.
Anyway, are there other questions for Mr. Bloom specifically? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bloom. We'll take it back to Mr. O'Connor and Mr. Mayfield.
Can I go on?
So, yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. So along the same lines, when we look at the SED population and whether it's, I appreciate your answer because it was a little distressing and I totally understand what you're saying. But I note that we have a TOSA for almost everything that the students need. But I'm just wondering, could there be a need for an SED TOSA? Because we just, I mean, it comprises sometimes 40% of our population. Right now, I think it's about 30%. That's a lot of kids.
Yeah, great question. I would say all of the TOSAs are working with our SED students. And so any intervention work would include our SED students. EL work definitely includes our SED students. So all of the TOSAs are working with our SED students.
Right. Good, that's reassuring. Chris, I just have a few more questions.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Thanks, I
The floor is
appreciate
yours.
it. This came through to me and I got a little concerned about it. And it's in each of the sites where we talk about a parent survey. And I mean, and they love staff and they love administrators, but all the sites seem to report about 40% of the parents were concerned about bullying. And that just stood out for me. And it's true across the district results as well. I don't know how to explain that. My sense is we do a good job, but parents seem not to understand that.
Yeah. And I think that's part of it. There's unquestionably, there are things happening on our sites where, kids are bullied and we look into every single one of the instances that are brought to our attention. As you know, every website has a concern, report a concern and a bullying button. Every single one of the reported things we follow up on and get back from the principal at the site specific information on how that particular incident was followed up upon.
And
I think bullying is a widely used term, and it when it's used, sometimes it isn't the actual definition of bullying. But the last thing I would say is that undoubtedly also with the return to school, where students have been for a long period of time, on their own, at home, not interacting socially. There are adjustment issues occurring right now that we're dealing with.
And so when we do investigate that and we come to some kind of conclusion, our parents are kept in the loop. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if it is a serious allegation incident, a report is done, a bullying report is done, and that's delivered to parents as well.
And then the very next thing in all these great work that was done was students' response to 3 questions, I guess, in a survey. And the one that stood out for me, I think it's about 40%. So maybe 60% of the kids, I may have reading this back, at least 40% of the kids feel that there's no one on campus that they can talk to when they have an issue. And that seems, again, like a high number. Yeah,
I would agree. That's a high number.
Okay. So,
sure.
I think Dr. Prater has.
If it's okay, if I could speak to that really quickly,
Yeah,
because
that'd
that
be great.
surprises me, because I think about our healthy kids surveys, I think about our youth truth surveys, and I was about to interject about the bullying piece.
Right.
Our students report that overwhelmingly they feel safe on campus.
Right.
Overwhelmingly, they tell us that they feel a connection to someone. Mr. Pinker talked about this earlier, about that relational nature. So when you're talking about the connectivity, youth truth gives us that constantly. I mean, I don't have a number in my head exactly, but it's well in excess of 70% of our students will say they absolutely know that there's a person that they feel comfortable connecting with on campus at the secondary level. And then Healthy Kids Survey there's definite alignment and correlation between what we're seeing in Youth Truth and Healthy Kids for the last 10 years.
Great. So again, I'm just going with the numbers that were here. So I appreciate getting filled in on that. So one of the things that I looked at when I was looking at in a lot of the charts, it said, this was before, this is after, and this is where we hope to go. And then there's a blank column that says, this is where we got. And that's not filled in, which is clear because we haven't gotten there yet. But my guess is it was filled in past years. And so when a site says we're going to make a 2% improvement, a 5% improvement, for me as one board member, it would be interesting to know what happened with the goals that were set in prior years. And I don't know how that comes across to us, but
Yeah. Well, I would say that the data points 2 years ago and last year would be the current year and next year, if that makes sense. So next year, when we look at the SPSAs, we'll be looking at where the school was at this year and where it ended up this year. We also do an evaluation piece for the SPSAs every year. So in June, after the data comes in and all the data points are entered into the SPSA, the principal writes up an evaluation of the activities within the SPSA and how much, to what degree, to what extent they met the goals within the SPSA.
and so is that currently shared? Since it's already done, is that currently shared with the board or the public?
It is not. We do have those and we're not required to do so
Well,
by
yeah, no,
by law, but we certainly could. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if the rest of the board's interested. So I guess for me, that's about it. I'm just really impressed. I mean, there's a ton of work that went into this. It took a ton of work to get through it. I really appreciate how much work it was, and I can't imagine how many times you guys had to read it.
Dr. Prater, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I share obviously with my team the similar concerns about school, anything related to student wellness and safety. And I know you know that. And so when we come to our December board meeting, we're going to have a report by Jimmy Simpson from Youth Truth. And I'm really interested and excited to hear that data, because these questions will be answered definitively, because we have probably over 94% of our students this year completed their Youth Truth surveys. We have higher than ever participation. So we're going to be able to really break it down and see what the kids had to say to those questions about bullying, safety, engagement, all those really important questions. I think based on what I'm seeing and listening from our student senators, it's going to be perhaps a new baseline for us, because we will see how kids are perceiving the world around them after a year and a half away from school. And I just want to brace ourselves for that and be open-minded to it, because we can move forward, whatever that is, we will move forward. And but you'll be able to see it very transparently in the December board meeting. Yep.
Okay, Evelyn.
I'm sure I know the answer to this, Dr. Prater, but when we get the data from the Youth Troop, what disaggregation will we be looking at?
That's a really good question. It's a pretty powerful tool, so I'm sure we'll be able to break it down. And I think we'll need to, because I think what we'll find in our district, more than likely 70% of the students are going to more than likely feel safe, engaged, connected to adults, so forth. I think there will be a percentage of students who just have lost their way, feel disconnected, and feel, I don't know if it's going to be 30%, but I suspect it'll be higher than any of us like, based on what has happened. And so I know that when that data comes out, we will be able to disaggregate it. We'll be able to see which populations of students feel most disconnected and struggling. So those are the things that we'll do, and that's why we're working on our multi-tiered systems support. The board's vision and commitment to that multi-tiered systems of support will allow us to address the academic and social emotional aspects of how kids feel and how they're navigating school and the world around them. And I think we have to pay close attention to that. So we have great systems in place, really great things occurring, but we have to be honest with ourselves as well. Many of our kids are wounded. Many of our kids and society in general is frustrated and exasperated. There are a lot of emotions out there. We're all tired, but we have to look at this bravely and engage. And that's what we'll do.
Kristen?
Actually, Marilyn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Just trying to get to where I want to be. Sorry. I've got to pinch this thing out. Okay. With regard to the elementary plans, what, they just went right out of my mind. SPSAs. I noticed, and I discussed this with Mr. Mayfield briefly, but I wanted to bring up that only I think 3 of our Title I schools had applied for grant funding from Big Brothers and Big Sisters, applied and received Big Brother, Big Sister programs at their school. And could you just explain why the other schools did not receive?
Great. So we put out to all schools the availability of Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and I think staffing on their part was our biggest concern. And so in discussions with them, they said, we can accommodate 3 schools, that we think we can get the staffing for 3 schools. And so we put it out, first 3 schools to respond, and that we felt had the highest need for such a program. We hooked up with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. It was available last year via Zoom. And so I really appreciate the fact that they pivoted and helped us to accommodate more students at that time, because previous to then, it had only been at 2 schools.
Absolutely. I mean, I just would encourage the public, people who can, to participate in that program. It is so powerful for our students in need. And I wish we could have it at all of our schools, but I understand that they are limited. And the other thing that I wanted to say, because I just thought this was so great, and I saw it only on one elementary SPSA, and I'm sure it's just an oversight, and that all of our schools are doing this or plan to do this. And oddly, it was at Los Ranchos. Thank you, Mr. McMillan, and your group there. That the item reads, all staff will support LGBTQ students by collaborating with counselor, parents, and students to promote a welcoming and inclusive school campus. All gender restrooms will be labeled and communicated. Students' preferred pronouns will be used in all school settings.
Yep.
I know that is the equity that we want to see across our district. It's what we have worked to achieve, what we strive to model. And I hope next time the SPSAs come that other people will have included that, just specifically stated it.
Yep.
Hats off to Los Ranchos for doing so.
I agree. I think it has value to specifically state that, but I can tell you that that is occurring at all of our schools.
I'm sure it is. I know that we've worked hard on it. Thank you.
Before I go to you, Mark, I want to see if anybody else has any comment. Okay, Mark.
Thanks. So just 2 things come to my mind. And just to your point, Dr. Prater, about we're all stressed out. The other day, I actually looked up the symptoms and the signs of PTSD. And I am kind of convinced that all of us, the entire country, is suffering from PTSD. And it's interesting when you go look those things up. But back to this. So sometimes in the past, districts would go to a lot of effort. Sites would go and they'd do all this research and they do all this and they'd come up with a report and it was printed. And so in those days, it went up on a shelf and it was never looked at again. And I did get to speak, I think it was maybe to Jeff or you guys about this. Oh, no, it was Diane, about these plans. So can you tell me just a little bit of how they're not sitting on a shelf?
Yeah, great. Similar to the LCAP, we monitor the activities that are mentioned in the SPSA. So schools are responsible for carrying out those actions. So with the LCAP in the beginning of the year, and you know that document is exhaustive. It's got a lot of details, a lot of activities in there. We email out everybody who's involved in those activities. Hey, don't forget, you need to send your math teachers to CPM training or whatever the particular activity is. Sites do the same thing. And then the data is monitored, not necessarily through the SPSA, but through other tools, Illuminate, FastBridge, et cetera. And then when it comes to reporting time, then that data is transferred over into the SPSA document.
And then just a last thought. At the end of each of these, there's a little thing on the budget. And so some of the schools report that they had this much, I guess, from general fund, and some had this much from Title I. And then some of them report upwards of $20,000 in quote unquote donations. And so it made my heart a little worried that some of the schools that have less wealthy relationships in the community or with their parents may be at a disadvantage because they don't have that extra money coming in.
That certainly may be the case, but the sites are not required to report donation funding within the SPSA. So some did, some did not. It isn't a requirement, but certainly there is some discrepancy in donated funds around the district without a doubt.
And Mark, if I could address even at the secondary level, when you're asking about if it's a living, breathing document, is it something that's going to sit on the shelf? At the secondary level, you've got at the middle schools, you've got the schools to watch, and you've got them talking with and working with their staff. You've got at the high school level, the SPSAs help form their WASC documents as they move into WASC in a year from now. So it's the blueprint and it's a guide, a roadmap under the board priorities to try and move in that direction. So, and the final thing is Rick and I are always working with the school sites to make sure that we're keeping abreast of how they're working with their staff to make sure that we're following this blueprint. So it's not just put on the shelf.
Marilyn.
Yeah, this is just my last comment. So I guess what you're saying in essence is these are not reference documents, these are working documents.
Correct.
Thank you.
And I would, I think, echo some of what Mr. Buckman said. When I was looking through the document, I was impressed with all the work that everybody had done. It continues to disturb me when I see the achievement gap, right? And I think it disturbs all of us. I think this is something that we as a district take very seriously, and the kind of conversations that we have at I know the district level, and I believe at the board level, reflect those concerns. I think we're not perfect, but I appreciate the work that we're doing on equity, because I think these are ways that we acknowledge that those gaps exist and that we have a responsibility to try to close that gap, to mitigate those differences. And through our equity work, the things we've been talking about tonight, through our summer programs, through our principal academies, our teacher, our teacher in services, professional development that we're talking about, the vertical integration that I think we heard about, those kinds of things. We know that we need to continue to address those in a hopefully effective ways, and that will be reflected, I think, in the data that we also have asked for and that we need to continue to discuss, because we know those gaps exist. We know that we must do something about them, and I think that we're trying to do that. If there's no other board comment, this is an action item, and so I do need to go to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board on this item? Okay, seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board. Mr. Buckman?
Yeah, I'd like to move acceptance of all 700 pages.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Okay, do we have a second? Second by Mrs. Sheffer. Hold on just a second. Okay, is there any other board discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a vote. Mr. Buckman? Yes. Mrs. Sheffer? Ms. Dobler-Drew?
Yes.
Mrs. Frame? Mrs. Roger? And I'm a yes. The motion carries 6-0. Dr. Eisendrath Rogers is feeling ill, and so she has left the meeting. And so the vote will reflect that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We really
Thank you.
appreciate your help and all the work. And again, kudos to the board, from the board to all of the people that have been involved in this, the students, the parents, and all, actually the classified members, the teachers, everybody who worked on it, Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Mayfield, the supervision that you guys have had to do. And I see your names through, sprinkled throughout there. O'Connor responsible for this, Mayfield responsible for that. So thank you both very much for all of your hard work. Okay. Item 10.05 is a proposed new board policy, 5113.2 work permits. First reading, I believe that'd be Mrs. Frost.
Yes, thank you. 5113.2 is work permits. It is an optional board policy, a new board policy, and it really does codify a system that we already have in place at our high schools. It allows part-time employment for our students. It is a requirement of minors. So if you're between 14 and 17 years old, you must have a work permit through your school to work. It looks at GPA requirements, and it really says that your work cannot significantly interfere with schoolwork. So all of that I think is very positive. This is a first reading, and I recommend that it comes back for a second reading.
Okay. Is there anybody that has an objection to bring this back for a second reading? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our action consent agenda. Let me know if you want to pull something. 11.01, approval of classified and certificated personnel items. 11.02, authorizing continued use of remote teleconferencing provisions pursuant to AB 361 and Government Code Section 54953. Acceptance of donations. Approval of furniture and equipment requests. I'm going to ask that we pull 11.05 because I need to abstain from that. 11.06, approval of purchase orders and CalCard purchases. 11.07, approval of warrants and payroll. 11.08, approve county-wide plan for educational services to expelled students. And 11.09, approval of new positions, payroll specialist, buyer, elementary counseling aides. Okay, we have a motion on, do we have a motion to approve 11.01 through 11.04 and 11.06 to 11.09? Okay, I think I got Ellen first and seconded by Marilyn. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address the board on the consent agenda? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board for a vote. Let's see, Mrs. Sheffer, Mrs. Roger, Mrs. Frame, Ms. Dobler-Drew, Mr. Buckman. And I'm a yes on that. Motion carries 6-0. I pulled 11.05 so I can abstain from it. Would someone like to make a motion on that? Or actually, I'll go to the public. Is there anybody that would like to address the public on the minutes of October 19th? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board. Would someone like to make a motion on that? I think Mrs. Rogers making that motion.
I'll move approval of the minutes of October 19th, 2021.
Who would like to second that? Mr. Buckman? Okay, any board comment? All right, Mrs. Roger?
Yes.
Mr. Buckman? Yes. Ms. Dobler-Drew? I'm going to abstain on that. Mrs. Sheffer? Mrs. Frame? Motion carries 5 with 1 abstention and 1 absent. Okay, moving on to item number, let's see here. 12.02, is there anyone who would like to talk about advanced agenda items? Okay, 13.01, reports by board members. Ms. Dobler-Drew.
Enjoyed attending Liz Moore's CTE explanation and updates about the different pathways in CTE and the work with the community businesses. glad to know that there's such a strong working arrangement there. It's going to be great for the future of education. I just know it. And also the Student Senate, those kids were so engaged with seriously and sincerely answering the questions about serious topics that have been brought up. And they're just very dedicated, and it's just great to see the maturity level in them, despite the fact of the absence from school for so long. So I love participating. I'm thankful that we do still have a way to participate via Zoom for these critical meetings so that we can all be together.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Let's see, Mr. Pinkerton, do you want to just touch base with 13.02? I'm sorry, with 1303 developer fee report? And
Yes, just an
anything else?
informational item. So it'll actually come to the board for approval at the next meeting, but we have to put it out publicly. You know, we do it on website. And so I wanted to put it as an informational item on the board agenda tonight. Just general information about the report. And again, it'll come to the board for approval at the next meeting.
Okay, and Dr. Prater, do you have anything you'd like to add on 13.04, which is notice to appoint a personnel commissioner?
Oh, good.
Yes, we were, not myself, but the HR department, Beth Summers, identified an individual who spent some time in the CMR school district for a number of years and was a former administrator and I believe teacher as well. And she will, she has agreed to replace Julie Jones on the Personnel Commission pending board approval, and we'll bring that to the board next week for an introduction, for a discussion, and hopefully it'll be a really, I've heard nothing but really great things about her, and so you'll get to meet her maybe virtually or in person during our next board meeting.
Great, thank you.
Her name is Irene Iwan. And
Okay.
she was a former San Luis Coastal employee and was an administrator in Lucien-Mar. So Mr. Block and myself both had the opportunity of working with Ms. Iwan, and she'll be an excellent,
Perfect.
if chosen by the board.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything because you said next week, next time. But I know her personally. I've socialized with her and I've worked with her in Lucien-Mar. So she's a wonderful person.
And I think we should on this part of the discussion, because it's not part of the agenda yet. So this meeting is adjourned. We will have our next meeting Tuesday, November 16th. Thank you all very much. Thank you.